White House counselor Kellyanne Conway took to the stage thanking conservatives for helping elect President Donald Trump, and she praises her boss for his support of women. She told the crowd in her own life she rejects feminist labels because they don't fit.
It's difficult for me to call myself a feminist in the classic sense because it seems to be very anti-male, and it certainly is very pro-abortion in this context. And I'm neither anti-male or pro-abortion.
She also talked about her strong family upbringing, mostly by women who put God first in their lives. Afterward, we sat down in a messy back room for an in-depth conversation with her about her faith and balancing family and work life. This is part one of that conversation.
Talk to me a little bit about your Catholic faith. We know what a town Washington can be and how difficult it can be, and everybody's me, and out for themselves. What do you do to combat that?
My Catholic faith has just always been completely interwoven with who I am, what I believe, what I strive to do, what I don't do when no one's looking. And I'm a product of Catholic schools, which I thought were quite remarkable, from kindergarten through 12th grade in the same school, daughter of a single mom, which was very rare in the 1970s.
That must have been difficult.
Well, I really didn't notice because I had this huge family, great support. My mother and her three sisters and my grandmother and my uncle through marriage, a lot of strong male role models throughout my family and extended family and friends. So, and our faith just was always our anchor, and it kept us very grounded, and it kept us knowing that on the one hand, Lauren, there's always something bigger than you out there, God. And on the other hand, you don't need to feel hopeless and doomed, and there's always the promise of tomorrow, and you just have that faith. It also makes you, especially now in this job, in this town, makes me very impervious to the naysayers and critics. It really helps you to steel, S-T-E-E-L, yourself against the negativity, the criticism, the constant deluge of people trying to tear you down.
That happened to you this week with CNN and a negative report about you having to stay off the air. You're a mom of 4. You have an amazingly difficult job, and you're moving. So I think that the pressure is really on. People need to understand that. Is that right?
Well, yes, but in addition, I'm also doing many things at the White House that don't include going on TV. If I wanted to go on TV, I would have stayed out of the White House, made a lot of money, and gone on TV. The president has asked me and other members of his senior team to do any number of different tasks and assume different responsibilities. And I do have to say, as somebody who doesn't consider herself a feminist and doesn't run around screaming sexism, it is curious that certain questions are never asked of my male colleagues. The idea that people who have never been in a White House, let alone this White House, have a clue as to what's going on. But it also doesn't matter. And here's why it doesn't matter. What matters is what President Trump does for America. And he will make good on these promises. He already is. He's a man of impact, a man of action.
Do you talk about your faith at work? As a reporter, I never did growing up in the mainstream media. Now I can, and it's such a joy. Is it something that you feel free to talk about?
Yes, I do. And I am surrounded by people of different faiths at the White House and in our larger work within the community, the public policy community. And everybody feels very free, I would think, or could talk about their faith. I have Jewish colleagues who observe the Sabbath every Friday, and we're all very aware that they are unavailable to us on Saturdays, and good for them. I think that's a beautiful expression of faith. And there are those of us who, I sometimes with Sean Spicer and I found ourselves at the same church, at the same Mass recently, coincidentally, after Sunday show appearances. And he said, we went on the Sunday shows, we need to cleanse ourselves. And we sat together and worshiped together, which is very special. But look, a faith conversation is important because if you don't talk about faith, where sparingly or as you feel is necessary, then religious liberty will be that much more diminished. And religious liberty and God in the public square, or God in everyday conversation, or who you are as an individual, how your faith motivates you, whatever that faith is, Lauren, then that will be that much more diminished, if not denied.
And faith and policy are an interesting intersection. Is that something that's talked about in high-level meetings?
Well, the intersection of faith and policy is so different than the separation of church and state. And I want to make that clear so that people aren't conflating the two. Folks are motivated by this country is founded on religious freedom. And we have God mentioned in our Pledge of Allegiance, on our currency, and our oaths of office, etc. And so I think trying to either insidiously or overtly purge God from our lexicon and from our consideration set, as has been done by different people over different times, is unfortunate. And it's also antithetical to who this country is. We are a pluralistic country, and I respect the fact that many Americans don't believe in God or don't subscribe to a formal religion, a doctrinal religion. That's their right as well. But I also don't want them interfering in my right to practice my religion or to raise my children as I would like to in that faith.
We'll have more of my interview with Kellyanne Conway tomorrow.